We are here to talk about how the future prosperity of our industry really depends on attracting new talent. And probably couldn't pick a better topic, I think, at this point. My name is Joseph Valerio. I am the program director at AVIXA's foundation. And I have some esteemed colleagues with us on stage for various reasons. They're before you. Some of them also represent CEDIA, our partner organization here at ISE. So we wanted to come together as organizations and bring some members of ours on stage who are having some impact in their regions to tell you about maybe some of their success stories today. And naturally, of course, we couldn't be without our good friend Clive from AV Magazine, who's
Chief
News Inspector, yeah. But he's been very instrumental in finding out some of the great needs and challenges of our industry, and he can help us, pepper in some of that feedback from our industry today. And first, I'll do a quick introduction, if I could, for everybody on stage. Amanda, to my left here, is the chair of the CEDIA Professional Development Council, and she's also an AV professional of many years, and so she can talk about the different aspects in relation to CEDIA and the work they're doing for workforce development, but also what she's seeing in the world as far as maybe ways to make our industry more attractive, hopefully. To her then left is Ian Bryant. He is the VP of Technology and Applications and Workforce Development at CEDIA. Thank you for being here, Ian.
Thank you for having me.
We just had a very successful student day yesterday where we brought in over 170 students from around Europe to experience this industry up close, meet young professionals, meet people who could potentially hire them. And so that's one of the many things our organizations will do that I'm sure you'll talk of today. To his left is Kuldip Kamat, CTS. He is Managing Director from All Wave AV. And you've come as far as Mumbai, am I correct? Yeah. So we've known Kuldip and his team for many years because he's an AVIXA member and has been doing a lot of work on the ground in India to hire new talent, and he'll talk about that today. And again, we finish with Clive on the left, who is instrumental in helping us understand the industry from the inside perspective. So the first thing I thought we would do is kind of set the stage. And if I could. Maybe I could advance.
Never trust technology.
Oh, there we go. Try again? Yeah. Is to just set the stage for you, right? What we're looking at in the world and the research from our organizations has effectively shown us that young people still don't really grow up dreaming to be AV professionals, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Neither do old people.
So, what's that mean? About 97% of companies in some form, over 90% at least, that means a majority of companies in our industry. From the research we've done at our organizations, the work that Clive's done has shown us that companies in our industry believe that there is in fact a skills gap and there's a crisis happening. Even if they're fully staffed, they agree with that statement. So Clive, I thought with maybe asking briefly, what have you noticed are some of the key challenges right now facing us?
Well, I don't want to be a doomslayer or doommonger, whatever you call it, but clearly we try and monitor the industry. We are limited in our research capability, but we do have a pretty good feel on quite a few things, and it can be quite complex, whichever way you're looking at it. We were looking at two things really. One is what are we doing to pull new talent, or pull any kind of talent into our industry? And secondly, how are we remunerating, paying salaries, and encouraging these people to succeed in life and in their own companies? It's a two-pronged thing, really. The problem we've got, as we came to the conclusion, which led to us actually partly redesigning the magazine, thinking about how we communicate to everybody and whether we're doing it in the right way, is that having talks with initially Middlesbrough and various other people, is that AV is pretty damned invisible to most of Generation Z, if you want to patronisingly call them that. And going down to Bournemouth, seeing SCOMs and LTSMG and so on, and talking to people in education, there you see all these people doing elements of AV, all individually, not actually looking upon the profession that we have as a whole. Secondly, what we do is so pretty amazing and creative, but no one really is seeing that or relating that to what the AV industry is doing. Secondly, the industry itself says it's actually having a dearth of talent. And certainly the technician, system designer, and the installation level, its sales side seems to be okay, although it could be better. There are certain minor increases, but actually attracting talent is partly a problem. But also, there seems to be a disproportionately high level of freelancers who are actually taking up the slack very expensively who are not really taking the right ownership of projects, and that investment is not being made in the company's own internal expertise. So you're not actually building your own expertise base. You're not, in a way, rewarding it adequately because the entry salaries are quite low. Because margins are now being driven through the floor, there's no time to, you want to hit the floor running with new recruits, and there's no time for training or development of any kind, or who is being taken on as a basic apprentice is either, if they're renowned to be a part of a good training program, being nicked by the competitor. And this is almost like a vicious circle. So the recruitment industry is saying, well, they're not paying enough. They're not actually carrying out their interviews in the proper professional way. And the industry itself is, well, we're just fighting for survival at the minute, we're trying to do this. So it's a combination of things that have emerged over the last few years that we've all been slightly aware and suspicious of, but didn't actually know. And now we're starting to think, well, hang on a minute. It led to our cover story towards the end of last year being, listen, we need to draw a line on this, and actually what is the industry doing? And because the industry needs to actually sell itself better and get out there and do things.
Sure.
Not actually ask for help from other areas until it's sorted itself out. Anyway, carry on.
That's a great segue. Thank you. To sort of my next question is, how do we, what are the risks if we don't step up and we change? I'll open it up to the panel.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I was going to say, one of the biggest risks is that you don't get new ideas, you don't get new talent. The workload, I mean, I'm a small business, so I wear many, many different hats. I actually am out in the field as well, so I'm one of the field technicians. I happen to actually really like that part as being a female, and I don't see very many of me out there. But it just makes a larger workload on fewer people. And the demand, as we see, is not going down anywhere. People are wanting more and more technology. They're reaching out to try to find more and more technology. They want people to set it up. But if we don't have that workforce that's able to do that, then you get people that deal with DIY products and things like that and have a terrible experience. And then that turns them off to the entire technology in and of itself.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Basically, is my mic on?
There you go.
All right, thank you. Basically, if you look at the evolution of the industry, the audiovisual industry has traditionally been, like 20, 25 years back, someone who's passionate about AV would set up a company or join someone else and then grow it up as what I like to call a doctor or a lawyer, nothing wrong with that. But the demands of the modern workplace force large companies as well as customers to have a more industrial engineering approach, very standards-driven approach. Some of these are now becoming regional or even global deployments where you need to have a consistency in terms of the skill sets. So the risk which you mentioned is if you don't evolve, it'll continue to be a hobbyist industry, and that is extremely dangerous for us because we'll never grow. We'll never be able to come neck and neck with the IT industry. Of course, they're several leagues ahead of us. But of course, the distinction between IT and AV is going. So the way projects are being deployed, right from needs gathering, the design, the whole specifying, implementation, and after-sales support, the level of professionalism that still needs to be brought up is pretty high. And the skill set or even the type of talent needs to be drawn up at a very young level versus people just stumbling into the AV industry, which has been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, and I wanted to jump on that same thing. We've been continually talking about making sure that everyone understands it, to think of technology as a utility. And when you think in that way, we have to make sure that our technicians and our designers and our engineers are professional and they're being upskilled and they're continuing their education forward. And if we don't go down that road, what Amanda was saying is about the DIY and the bad experiences that will continue to happen. It's a must thing. It has to change.
Sure, absolutely. And I think really what we're talking about is showing the next generation that this is really the place for them, right? And the work that we've done, I'll put my AVIXA Foundation hat back on, is identify really that the one thing that we need, of course, is more visibility and awareness that this industry is so creative and really that they're already creative people, simply that they can get paid for it, right? How cool would that be? And then, of course, taking the skills gap to the next level and helping them upskill from that point, enabling that growth and sort of uplifting them, and then really making our companies and our associations be bridges into the community for them to be hired. So I guess that would then help us move on to that visibility portion. Let's talk about that. What are some of the challenges that I know Amanda had some stories in our call previous as preparation for this? What are some of the challenges you're seeing about awareness in our industry, for our industry?
Well, obviously, I'll put on my women in AV hat for just 1 second, if you don't mind. But I think part of having the women in AV, as well as supporting that, is not just seeing women that come in and work in the office and women that work in the sales, but seeing women that are also the technicians, women that are also the programmers. And more importantly, in addition to that, even just supporting women is women having conversations, because I'm also the mother of some kids that are getting ready to go off to university and are in middle school. And I think women in general have a real, especially mothers, have a real opportunity to talk to their children about careers in that. And when kids are choosing where they're going to school or what their career path is, moms kind of have that unique perspective and that unique ability to kind of help have that conversation with their children and with the guidance counselors and things like that that are a little bit different than maybe even dads, have as an opportunity. So I think that that's important to support that. A week from now when I get back, I'm actually going to a middle school to talk about my career. I mean, yesterday was phenomenal having university students here, but a lot of them have already gone through all of their degrees and now they're just looking for jobs, but we haven't created that excitement all the way up through. I'm going to a middle school, 7th and 8th grade students and talking to them about my career. It's a lot more magical and a lot more exciting to them. And if I can get them started early to think about that all the way through, I think that that's important.
Sure. And I think part of it also is, I know Kuldip, you mentioned to me before in passing that we're kind of underselling ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. I think the value we bring to the table as an integrator is not just hooking up displays and putting up microphones, right? The more we have conversations with large enterprises, I think we need to rebrand ourselves as technology integration, not AV. One of my mentors keeps correcting me when I use the word AV. It's almost out of my dictionary right now. It's all got to be technology integration. Look at the projects that a lot of integrators are doing it almost without saying they're doing it. So they're doing a lot of projects with small IoT devices. They're doing with networking devices. They've been doing it with some amount of machine learning capability. So there's a lot of layering which is happening above the whole audiovisual experience. One of the things that as an organization, what we're trying to do is position ourselves more as a technology and technology applications company. Hopefully from a talent perspective, that draws kids much more because there's no real school of AV. And I think we're working together with the AVIXA, with your foundation to keep driving that year on year. We're going to hit some roadblocks, but eventually what we want to get people excited about is that it's as cool as the IT industry, at least in our part of the world, where job security and opportunity is much higher and the pay is much higher in the IT industry because it's very storied. People have made great careers. They've risen up to management, and a lot of them have also gone global. I'm still seeing the early days from our part of the world where we can start taking that and mimicking or at least following the steps of the IT world in that sense. So.
Could I just say,
Sure.
in terms of what we're perhaps missing here is there seem to be two aspects. I mean, the engineering community looks at AV and calls it creative engineering, not technology integration. And there seem to be two levels here. There seems to be no problem with individual creatives as we split up into all the creative disciplines. There seem to be lots of people coming out there. There seem to be fewer people at the integration and installation level who we would associate with apprenticeships, like basic skills.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are in short supply, the technicians, but we're overwhelmed with a lot of just don't call it AV, and that's the difficulty. You look at main engineering, which I do as well. They're dedicated traditional paths from school to university to the industry, and we're running a Bright Sparks program, and it's 50-50 women and men, and they're out doing STEM activities and everything else, and they are benefiting from companies going out to them and showing what they're doing, including the students who've gone it, and they do all that. This massive engineering, but STEM work. So technology is not a barrier for them. They've gone beyond that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be working in engineering, but it doesn't seem to be working within an industry which is fantastically creative, where you thought there would be lots of people. So I don't understand why there's such a dysfunctional nature going on.
Well, from what I'm hearing, the one takeaway then to our audience would be that a little bit of time can go a long way from a company or certainly our associations, as we're trying to do on behalf of the industry, to make it visible by showing how exciting it can be. And it's as easy as working with young people at a school nearby that are already learning some of those skills. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ian, what's something that CEDIA is doing to sort of make that impact?
Yeah, I mean, CEDIA, we've noticed, and if you've been in the industry long enough, you've noticed that those that started 5+ years ago as technicians have moved their way up because the industry is so good about giving pathways for individuals to continue to grow past technician into engineering and programming, and then maybe even business ownership. And with that lapse or that gap in the workforce, there's this huge dropout in the technician level. And so CEDIA has been working diligently to put together training programs for that entry-level technician in the US, in the UK, and the EMEA region. So we have our City and Guilds program, which is accredited across the EMEA region, which is a immersive 1-week hands-on skills education program. And then additionally, we have our apprenticeship program, which is with the Institute of Apprenticeships in the UK, and it's a 12 to 18 to 24 month program that once they come out, they're ready to hit the ground running and be a mid-level to lead technician.
And I think showcasing it too, like the technician, right? Like if you're a company and you're a business owner and you honor and you respect what your technicians are doing and you elevate them, like I do a lot on my social media platform, and people see me like the days when I'm not like dressed nice or things like that, but I am like freezing cold because I'm like helping pull wire in a new construction house. And, you know, people I think appreciate seeing what it is that they're going to get into. Sure. And I think showcasing that, we're really good about showing like the beautiful pictures, right? Like everyone from ISE is going to go ahead and they're going to post the beautiful pictures of their booth. But how many people are going to go ahead and post the pictures of the amazing people that helped put it all together, had to make everything work, and showed the entire process? Because we're really good, like I said, about showcasing, you know, the icing and making the pretty picture, but we're looking for the people that are willing to go ahead and do that. And if we show them like, hey, you like to work with your hands, or you like to be, you know, out in the field and problem solving and things like that, we need to show those pictures too. Can't just show, I mean, the beauty end part of it. Show the real life and show what it is that you're looking for. Those are the people we're looking for, and then elevate them too. When they work at your workplace, give them the kudos, you know, let the end result, the customer, know that they're a very big, important part of your team that's going to make them valued and make them want to get involved in our industry.
Yeah. Kuldip, you want to?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point Amanda made, because ours is a one industry where, I mean, I've been an AMX programmer 20 years ago, and it's only the learning by doing which makes this industry special. You know, sometimes I hate to admit it, but I was a management consultant before this, and it's amazing, you know, how little I knew, and I was still advising extremely senior people on what they should be doing. And our industry is absolutely not like that. You learn by doing, you learn by experimenting, you also learn by failure. But then if you keep a positive mindset, within 5 or 7 years, you know a lot more than, you know, a peer who would have just, you know, studied and gone on to work in, let's say, finance or consulting. I think that aspect needs to be brought out to the new talent, because that's also the way the technology industry is going, right? The software industry, the startup industry is also a lot of learning by doing. And I think if we can get the younger generation to appreciate the fact that the best learning is learning by doing, you know, it could be small apprenticeships, it could be you know, a trade school, it could be small projects, it could be assisting a senior technician on site. That aspect of learning by doing is extremely critical to development.
Yeah.
I'd like to second that. I highly encourage any integration companies or manufacturers that have employees that want to continue to learn, and give them the platform, the opportunity, whether it be a education program from CEDIA or AVIXA, or if it's just getting a senior level guy or woman to partner with them inside their facility and teach them at their own company. That way that they're getting that hands-on training and continuing to level up.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of the great success models I think that we can share based on some of the things we've mentioned. But I would also we'd be remiss if we didn't maybe go back to Clive briefly and just say if you could maybe share any other areas where you're seeing the skills gap through the research you've done. And
It's mainly at the technician level. I mean, it is worrying that this freelance market, it seems to be growing too quickly and is so disproportionate to the in-house skills, which are being lost. I mean, I cover everything. I have covered everything engineering. I was from Formula One to all the other areas. And by the way, incidentally, a lot of women engineers in Formula One, if you look around.
Yeah.
And the great thing about engineering is they've done it without any fuss. There's been no banging drums. So they say, well, what are they doing that we're not? But it's a technical level, which makes me realise, are people not making these connections in schools and making this more attractive? I don't think that's an element I don't think is our fault, but it's the schools and how the continuing education is being delivered. But technicians definitely stand out. Ironically, the sales and marketing things seem to be quite well remunerated. It's just this technician level. And that's where the true expertise should be in-house, in terms of properly managing clients, retaining that expertise, and be able to sell them, especially as we're moving more into service provision, that the AV industry desperately needs to do because margins are going through the floor and they need to offer more value-added services to probably survive in the next 10 years.
Do you have an addition or rebuttal?
I was just going to say something too. With yesterday, with the students all coming out, you see that 170 students, and a lot of them are in that room, and they all have very similar degrees, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that the group that I walked around and toured with, as I said, as a differentiator, it's great to have the degree and to learn, all of the stuff that's sitting behind the desk. But maybe if you don't have a job for the summer, or you don't have an internship, find an integrator. And although you may think that like being the technician is maybe the lower job of maybe what you did not want to do, once you have that on your resume, number one, it differentiates you from everybody else in the room. And number two, when you get to that part, when you're doing maybe the software or the programming or the developing or the making of the new product, when you understand how it was actually installed, it makes you a much better person at a different job, right? So learning that smaller piece, like doing that through a summer internship, or maybe even working with like an integrator. I had a couple college students that we were flexible with their schedule so that they could still take, their college classes, but then they could work evenings and nights because we had the benefit of we could work at different hours. And so offering that flexibility, but that really helps to differentiate them when they're going for a job versus just that other person coming out with that degree.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm looking at a future employee, we have a dearth of skill in our own profession. And it's very different. It came down to the personality of that person able to fit into the team and what potential they had done, which may not have been related to what they were actually doing, but how they used their time, what their own individual approach was like. That's something that's in them, and you can teach them other basic skills, but you have to have the approach, the personality, and the other personal attributes that you can't teach. They're innate. So I always go for that sort of approach all the time. It's a fabulous thing. In the old days, we used to muck in and do other jobs, Now, for some reason, we don't. I'm not entirely sure why. We're filling our time doing other things. I certainly did lots of stuff. And I'm now doing a profession, I'm an arts graduate, and I'm writing about science, technology, medicine, IT, and Formula One. Who'd have thought that 30 or 40 years ago? So, it's given other disciplines that given me a different insight into what is now an incredibly different profession, and it's been beneficial.
And I think that then leads us to like what we can keep doing, right? We obviously there is a crisis. We're trying to address that, but that leads us to a majority of the time, hopefully, is giving out tools and tricks and resources and takeaways for the business owners in the room who are watching the stream, and anyone in addition to that who might wonder, well, that's all good, but how do I get started, right? What can I do to help my own company? And especially because I'm trying to grow my bottom line, right? That's my focus. I'm an AV company. That's my primary goal. But also at the same time, my projects keep growing, as you noted, Clive, and our industry continues to accelerate, and we need to fill that pipeline. And so some of the feedback I can share to start the panel off is we're certainly doing our best to start attracting the younger generation quite directly at their schools. Certainly, I think middle school is a good time to start, the younger ages, but what our focus, at least at the AVIXA Foundation, and Ian can speak to CEDIA, is we're going after that 16 to 25-year-old. First part, again, visibility, right? Getting the message out that this is a great career. They're already creative people who could, again, be paid for that great creative work already. And so that's, I think, half the battle there. And then offering those tools to the companies in our industry to help them go out and tell their own story. So I would look to see maybe what Kuldip was doing, because you've had some real-world success, maybe how you've seen that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, thanks to you guys, we got a lot of help, both online as well as offline. So I want to start off by saying that for any business owner in the AV field or the technology integrations field, if talent is not one of your top three things that keep you up at night, then I think you're special, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a top three challenge, more probably on par with things like cash flow and the other challenges that come with running a business. What we want to take a conscious effort is we want to develop our own talent, because every company is unique. Every company has a different culture. Every company has a different way of designing a system, implementing a system. And what we're kind of bound by or glued in together is by AVIXA standards. So that's where we started off from. We said that, whatever we design, how do we tell the world that we're prescribing to a standard? How do we tell the world that what we're doing is in line with international quality in terms of install? So we took a step back and said that it's very good to be an expert, but let's try to standardize whatever a technician builds. Let's try to standardize the way the engineers design and the way the engineers even do programming. What we did was we first started doing this with our internal teams slowly, and we had some success, which is when we went to the AVIXA India team and they put us in touch with the AVIXA Foundation. So what we did is we realized that we have three levels of talent. So one is, of course, the technician level talent. The second level is what I like to call application engineering, which is anything to do with design, programming, even project engineering and project management, where you've already won the job. And of course, the one right on top is more of business and business development, sales, marketing. We started off first with business development and sales and marketing with honestly limited success. We're still pushing through to make this industry more about creative storytelling, more about telling customers the realm of possibilities. The next level, which we've had more success on, is taking engineering graduates who have a double E or a CS background, having them work as apprentice, as interns on some of our projects, even tailgate some of the engineers on site. We also liberal enough to have them talk to customers, because when you're young and you start getting real world experience, the real world experience is actually talking to the customer, because the customer is never going to think of trying to mollycoddle someone on site. He's going to say it very direct. The customer, he or she's going to say it very direct. So we value that the real world experience for a 22-year-old who's shadowing someone can also even talk to a customer. And once they start getting success on site, that success and that muscle builds up. That's what we're going after. We've built a good engineering team now, across the realms of design and application engineering, project management, and the level 2 I'm talking about, and that's something that I want to take up to the next level with the AVIXA Foundation.
And before, I know Amanda has some, I think, success stories as well. I wanted to just come back and ask. One of the first challenges, it sounds like the hurdles was, as a business owner, was convincing the engineering school, for example, once they found out that you were not asking for anything and that you were actually looking to help their business line, their bottom line with their students?
Yeah.
How did that help you get through the door as a business leader?
With the school or
with the schools
with the school?
You're in fact recruiting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll first start off by saying that today we are at a level at which the students know and they ask, can we join your company for doing something like this? And for me, that's a very big success for us, is when we are being recognized as an industry and a company that allows you to make the mistakes for 6 months, shadow people, get a taste of it. And we also pay a small stipend for them to get interested and even move into our city from smaller cities. That is something which when we started about 18 months back, we still had a very tough time trying to convince schools that this is what we're trying to drive at. At least in India, everyone's very starry-eyed about working in for a large IT company or a software company. Most of them happen to be large American or European multinationals who can literally do a 2x or 3x on the pay for a 22-year-old person. Now, we wanted to change that and say that, by coming on board, we're going to show you how cool this industry really is.
Yeah.
So.
Amanda, I think you had some stories that you could share as well from your side of the world.
I was just going to say, I think one of the biggest things to do, first of all, is support your associations, because you guys do so much work on both AVIXA and CEDIA. And I just recently actually taught a course at CEDIA, one of the introductory boot camps. And what I found really interesting is two of the students that were in there were not from the industry at all. They came and they paid by their own money to be able to come take the boot camp to get introduced to the industry. But when I asked them how they had found out about it, is actually a family friend that worked at a manufacturer, which I won't name the name, but it was the same manufacturer, and two different total states and cities. So that particular manufacturer has done a really good job of just educating and talking to people out there. And one of the students we actually had hired out before the end of the boot camp. We were able to get him placed with a member company. And so I think that that's important, is when, especially like on the residential side and with CEDIA, we have a tendency to be a little bit smaller, right? We work in people's homes. We have a tendency to be kind of smaller businesses, maybe not as many employees, so we're maybe looking for smaller amounts of people. But at the same time, we need to support both of our associations. So when things come out, as far as like education events come up, share that kind of stuff out there in the community, because you have no idea, who's seeing it or the opportunity. So when CEDIA has an education event, or when AVIXA has one, have members of the associations, when you're saying you support it, put that out there. I mean, there are probably people looking at and following these really, really big companies out here, and they say, oh, well, hey, they're encouraging someone to go get certification or education through this association. What is that all about? And I think that helps name recognition. I think that helps with industry recognition, and that's going to help all of us all the way around.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing, that's maybe the second takeaway. The first, again, being donating some time. So companies, business leaders like you've done, Kuldip, to get into the classroom, for example, in your own region. That offers up the relationship building phase. And then the second one is offering up the talent, right? Being there to talk for the day, inviting them to a boot camp, having the local people understand, as Clive noted, that there is some visibility that you maybe not have been aware. And so I think that then leads me to be, how can we scale that? How can companies maybe take that on themselves?
I mean, we'll have to do this, at least as an integrator. I think one of the things is, and I'm hoping for the future, is that we work as it's manufacturers, it's maybe consultants. There's also international integrators coming together to form some sort of a joint talent pool. I think that'll really drive up. A lot of the kids want international exposure today. Some countries are growing faster. They might want to, parachute in there for a couple of years, come back out. That really, the international exposure for any individual 5 or 7 years down the line really makes a big difference, because when they're seeing or designing a space or doing a space, they know the user experience much, much better. And that's what eventually counts, the user.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're trying to do in the future is work with a handful of global integrators to see if there is a possibility for some sort of a talent exchange program as well.
Okay. Before I throw it back to Clive for a question, Ian, I wondered if you could follow up on how members could either naturally help themselves, but how can they help their associations, as Amanda kind of brought up?
Very similar to what Amanda said. Speak about your association that you belong to and the industry that you belong to, and why it is important to be a part of it. Take the things that we have as CEDIA and AVIXA, our standards documents, our best practices, our white papers, and use them. Share them with your employees and your staff, and allow your technicians to read and educate themselves on them. We have an integrator that's a friend of mine in the U.S. who will take it upon himself to actively speak to the local legislation in the state to talk more about what it is our industry is and why it is so important to take us seriously and to really listen to what we're doing. Be active, be vocal, and then if you need any support, I can speak for CEDIA and for I think AVIXA that we are here to support you. So anything that you need at all.
Yeah, and we certainly have developed a number of resources each to be able to help companies do that. We have a brand new member toolkit, for example, that we've just put out that's free and downloadable with how to start an internship if you don't really have any sense of that, or how do I even talk to a school that's in my backyard by getting to the right person as opposed to just feeling like I'm so lost as a business leader. Again, I have no time because I'm trying to grow my business, but certainly look to your associations to do that. And I think that, in particular, Clive, one of the selling points is that the salaries have been going up. We have some good data to share for the next generation to excite them in particular.
Yes, I can't remember everything because I'm a complete buffoon when it comes to figures, but they'll be going up slightly. I mean, the entry level is about mid-£20,000. I don't know how that relates to euros and dollars, and it's UK primarily, but it's quite low. That's sometimes topped up when it should be around the 30 mark. Technicians are much lower. Again, but this contract is freelance and in-house, so probably 18 to 20, depending on what the skills are. But there's a slight increase of 1,000 or 2,000. It is going in the right direction, but very slowly. And it's very difficult to generalise. I mean, it's quite interesting, actually, when you start doing more salary research, UK, Europe, and individual countries, to see how that varies and what the local factors are, which probably affect it. I suspect, even though the market globally is doing right well, how that affects the salary scale, because when margins are going down, I don't know, because that's when salaries start to bite. Yeah. So we're in a vicious circle at the moment. There may be a slight increase, but is that a trend or is that just an aberration? I don't really know. Right. But it's all on our avinteractive.com site, and it's all charts, and about 30 charts of all broken down in different job titles.
I think Clive is a very interesting point. And then I think one of the ways of trying to proactively, increase, the appetite as well as increase the allure in terms of higher salaries is to go through services. I don't think salaries are going to be the lure. I mean, I don't think salaries on their own are going to attract talent in.
No, certainly not.
So. Yeah. One of the factors. But if you look at salaries and we look at the margins, and you're correct, like a lot of the larger projects, the pricing is going through the floor. But in terms of repeat business or in terms of services, not just traditional maintenance contracts, but things like IoT services or integrated services on the web. I'm seeing a lot of AV integrators offer these as value additions, and those services definitely have very high margins, almost neck and neck with what the software industry offers, and which is why the software industry can get better pay for entry-level engineers. So I think a conscious effort is also to showcase this as another, I'm repeating myself, but as a technology integration industry, is to also get the software and the service angle into the integration as well.
Okay. So again, I think what I'm hearing is for companies to get into their local areas on a grassroots level, it takes a little bit of time, using some of the resources that we've all each developed. So certainly look to your associations to do that, for amazing videos about our industry to help the person who's going to talk at that classroom, right? But it doesn't have to be such a full-scale attempt. It can be something small. It can be something successful, whether it's going directly to those sort of lower-level schools, the tangential technical colleges, where you can show the students that there is a sort of delineated path that's near what they're already doing, as we saw just the other day. And even, whether it's maybe veterans that you could have on staff who could then teach the next transitioning vet in your area as well. I know, again, at the AVIXA Foundation, we're going directly for that 16 to 25 mark, because our companies in the industry have told us that that's really where the biggest need is, as Clive noted, at the sort of entry-level position. And so using the resources that our associations have as sort of ammo to help you go into those classrooms, that would probably have a better accomplishment.
Two examples also of two big AV companies that are doing that sort of thing is Shaw and Christie, both of whom are both CEOs are engineers, and I know Christine Schwink goes into schools, is very STEM oriented and gets in there, and Zoran, who's the chief operating officer of Christie, he mentors, coaches, and everything else. And that top-down approach, you've got the mentality, is how you manage your senior managers themselves, and that creates a culture that starts almost halfway towards thinking how they hire people and going out. It's always from the top down, but it sets a certain type of person to actually instigate and spread the message. Not every leader of a company is going to do that. They feel they don't know how to do it. you know. But you can see within companies, oh, well, they're going to be good at hiring people. They're going to present their company well and attract new talent and make it look exciting. That's down to the person at the top. That's the key differentiator, I feel.
And make time for that too. I mean, when you have parents, I know I talk about the parent side too, but when you have parents of children that have career days and stuff at school, make an opportunity for your employees to go to those career days, right? I mean, how many of you have sat through one of those career days and like you get these people that drone on and on about they're a lawyer and it's the most boring job. I couldn't do it. No offense to the lawyers out there, I couldn't do that all day. But when I get to go in there and all of the kids are talking about the cool gadgets and the cool things that I bring, they're begging me to come back. So make that an opportunity for your employees too. If there's a career day, if there's an opportunity where you can put up a table, usually you can do those things really inexpensively. But give your employees and give the people the opportunity and time to be able to do that, where they don't have to take maybe a personal day. Say, hey, I'm going to be gone for half a day, but I'm talking about our industry. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think also part of the message we can all share, certainly the people looking on who are concerned about this, is that many of us have come to this industry and didn't go to school, didn't go to college in particular. And so you can still be very, very successful. So the message, I think, can go across the board, where it might, in fact, be a little bit easier knowing that a lot of schools in Europe and around the world are actually very, very focused from the government on down on helping on career training. Yep. And so maybe university isn't necessarily even a choice for those folks. So that's a whole nother market that we can attract. Our associations are attempting to do that on behalf of our industries, like you see behind us. Some of these events are actually having some impact, so it's a matter of maybe being more involved in the associations themselves and knowing what we're doing on behalf of our companies. But it sounds like really getting into those other communities that are less traditional as well. The career night early on, as opposed to at the engineering school, for example, might be a little bit easier, and you get maybe more excited people too.
Well, this is where diversity and openness comes
Absolutely.
alongside. And
Yep.
it's the same culture and mindset. They all go in individual strands that complement with each other. It's just open-minded, being able to be more expansive in the way you think.
Yeah.
I think we've been talking about diversity in the workplace, and so expanding your outlook of not just going to the universities and thinking about more. You could look at inner city programs. You can any sort of a program that you think there could be some young talent, because in this industry, as you said, it doesn't always require that college education. If you have passion and creativity and motivation and be driven, you can go as far as you want. And it just takes that first step to get in, with some hands-on education and a little bit of training, and you just get the ball rolling.
It sounds like even Kuldip and a lot of the success you've had has even simply been as an advisor from the industry that is obviously clearly welcoming with open arms, but letting the schools in your area know that that's really it's a possibility for them.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, myself included, we stumble into the industry, and I think that needs to change. Young minds, the 16 to 25-year-olds, are very impressionable, and it's at that time where a lot of kids decide whether they want to be a lawyer or they want to be a technology integrator. And it takes a lot of a show and tell. This is what's actually under the hood. That's something we want to show. Kids. A lot of kids do not have the opportunity of even going to college. They might not have the means to go to college, and that should not stop them from having a good career, because, as we know, like a lot of successful guys have not completed college. Like one of our very top performers, he's not even finished college, and I'm actually amazed that someone with a lot more degrees is not able to grasp concepts compared to this guy. So it obviously means that he's a lot more passionate, more dogged, versus saying that, this is what I learned in college. So
yeah. And so either way, it's a great choice, but knowing that there's a whole other potential of opportunity in community organizations, in nonprofits that are helping uplift students from underserved communities. And as far as places like India, there already are organizations and schools doing that.
Absolutely.
And in the States, letting counselors and guidance counselors and stuff know that just because a student isn't choosing a 4-year career path or a college university path, their learning doesn't stop. right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm still learning all of the time, every single day, but we have career paths for people to get into here. It just might not be a specific traditional in a classroom. And so some people are highly, highly intelligent, but they don't want to sit in the classroom all day long. This way, they're still continuing all of their learning, all of their education, but a lot more of it is hands-on. And so it's a really great opportunity for those people that maybe don't want to sit behind a desk all day. They get a little bit more hands-on.
Sure.
I just want to make one point. I think globally what I see is that the traditional model of go to college, get a job for life is over. I honestly think it's over, and anyone who thinks it that way is living in a fantasy world anywhere in the world. It's actually go to college, learn, but keep evolving till you retire, right? And sometimes even after you retire. This aspect of it needs to be told to a lot of students. So one of the big 4 audit companies we did a job for, we were amazed that it's a very large training center they've invested in. Every Monday there's like literally a big batch of new auditors that they're training, and every Monday there are like lots of fancy laptops handed out. And I was talking to the head of the facilities, and I was like, who are these guys? Where do you find so much talent coming in every Monday morning? And they're like, we got to do it, because even if they're gone to a good university, they don't have the requisite skills, so we got to retrain them. We have these 3-week modules, and they're, and for them, even after 6 months, they got to keep refreshing. I think that message needs to be gotten to the youngsters at an age that you got to be evolving till, you got to keep learning. It's not a 3-week trade school that you learn and then that's it. Yeah. Execute till you retire. Those days are over.
But I think that's a fantastic kind of segue into the final piece that we have. And I'll really kind of lean on Ian, and I'll put my foundation hat again to talk about what the final takeaway is and what people could start doing tomorrow. But I think what I'm hearing Kuldip really add is an easy thing that companies could even do tomorrow is open up your doors to these amazing facilities, these staging and rigging warehouses that we have, and have someone from nearby come and see how amazing it is. And that's an easy enough lift for someone to do tomorrow. That doesn't take a lot of extra legwork. They can still focus on their business. And clearly that company in particular had a lot of success just showing them how amazing it was. So I'll look to the CEDIA folks on the stage next, and when we finish up here, before we can get to some questions if we have them, what are sort of the programs and resources that you now have for the world to use to help them grow their talent pipelines?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. CEDIA's got in the EMEA region our City and Guilds program, which is that immersive hands-on training to get someone started, get them into the industry. Again, it's a technology, so it's continually changing. So you'll always have to keep learning, and we have that additional program. Our new learning management system is about to launch any day now. When it does launch, we'll have 28 hours or 28 classes of programming available anywhere in the world. Our new certifications are rolling out that are going to be worldwide accredited certifications by ANSI. And then we've got our apprenticeship program in the UK. We're trying as fast as we can to get this out across the rest of the EMEA region and the world.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of time. And then in the US, we also have our boot camps as well. And we're really refocusing our thoughts on supporting the individual and supporting the person that's actively doing this work. So as soon as our new website launches, we'll have a brand new career center, and in that career center, the individuals will be able to create a profile and put up their resume and showcase themselves to possible employees that want to hire them. And on top of that, have resource centers with videos about how to do interviewing processes and where you can go to continue to do upskilling. And we'll also have our employee side support in our resource center there as well. But we're doing as much as we can, as fast as we can, to really give everything back to the industry.
Yeah, thank you. And from AVIXA and our foundation, we've developed, as I mentioned, this great sort of member toolkit that's out there for even downloading posters you can put your logo on and take to a school and let them know you're going to come visit. Something as minimal as that we have on our website for you. Also, if you know or don't know, we have some fantastic scholarships. I'm not sure CEDIA does. I'll let you mention that, but a number of them are now available as well. They're usually for the global audience, and so anyone is able to help with their little schooling if they need it or otherwise. And We also have something that we started. We've sort of reinvented the tech club at the lower level school, and so we're calling that the Fantastic Tech Crew is kind of what we're coined. It's a great working success model we've found in some other places like Australia at the lower schools, and it's a way for students to learn early on, as Kuldip said, to get under the hood, and it can have their own ownership over their AV training. And so it's a great way to have that AV club started at a younger age. And then the last thing I think is to help us as associations be more involved with you. You are the ones that have all the fantastic venues. You're the ones that have access to the great soundboards and lighting technicians. And there's this great concert in town. Why not come bring a few students to that? So at least on our end, we're also doing a big campaign this year for what we're calling sort of behind the scenes, getting under the hood, going to fantastic venues and stuff around the world when we can be in town to show groups of students that this is a great career path. So I think our websites are a great place to start. Ian and I, of course, will be the people in the contact information you can reach and talk about more things that you may want. And I guess I'll finally end with the panel, maybe one point that you want to make to the crowd to help them succeed, if you have any.
I would just say get on social. I like being on social. That's where the kids are at. So get on social, show them what you do. We have the funnest career. So, I mean, showcase it, show it off.
Ian, we'll just go down the line one more time.
Oh, I mean, I'll just go back to what I just finished up saying is just continuing education, have fun, be innovative, be creative, and opportunities are out there.
Yeah, I think I'll end by saying that technology is a pretty creative field. See the creative aspect of what you're doing, the engineering will follow.
Get noticed. It's simple enough. We need to shout loud.
Shout loud.
And it's
I
all
love
about
it.
that.
Yeah,
If no one else is doing it, we can't do it. We have to. It's as simple as that, no choice.
Shout loud. That's great, Clive. We did build in time for questions if anybody who's left over has them, so we'll just open it up at this point. I wish we could take online questions. That'd be great. Like a true
Really
kind
want
of
to throw
Reddit.
this.
No, don't worry.
I don't think we have any. So thank you for those of you that were able to stick around at the end of your ISE. Some of us must hit the plane in the airport. So
Sadly.
a hand to our panel. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. We really appreciate it, and we hope that we've given you some great feedback.